Good afternoon. My name is Radhouane Jrad, fondly known as Jrad. You spent 3 days listening to how great AI is and how wonderful things are. And I'm going to try to bring it down a little bit, give it like some objectivity, some realism to do it. And so the best way to start this is effectively going with the positives. Okay, so it's a good story, AI. You go out there, you look at the statistics fairly, you get the same amount or same values in terms of statistics. So it's been great. There's a lot of talk about it. But I would like to quote the great Homer Simpson. Everybody can make up statistics. 40% of you agree with me, I'm sure about it. Now, if I flip the coin, I say, okay, is it really a happy story? So you got told the last 3 days, you can use agent, the LLMs and whatnot, everything is wonderful. But if I look at the statistics that tell a different story, I'm going to ruin it for you. That's almost me. So it seems to me that actually what we are trying to do in the last few years, couple of years, particularly with the agentic AI, is we're throwing spaghetti on the wall, and we're hoping something is going to stick. And when something sticks, we celebrate that success. We ignore the pasta that's on the floor, that the wasted money, the wasted energy, and there's a lot of shot in the dark and wishful thinking. But to be fair, Homer Simpson said 40% of you disagree with those statistics. The one thing that I would add, this is by Gartner, this is quite important in my mind. It effectively, we seem to have a medication and trying to find the disease for it. This can cure something. And that is why you can see the 1% there. If you give me 100,000 euros and return 1,000 euros, you will not be happy. Probably will find where I am and get it. So effectively, there is a big hype. And I'm not anti-AI by any standards, quite the opposite, actually. I'm earning my money from it. But the story has been there before, hasn't it? This is a very quickly, basically, put together a list of things that we went through in the past, big hypes, The cloud is going to silver bullet is going to cost you costs. Blockchain, say goodbye to your banks and whatnot. But did it really happen? It didn't happen. The last one is interesting one. I have a PhD from ChatGPT-5. So the trend is there. And I posit to you that actually we should learn from these things. One of the things that repeated a lot in the last 3 days and beyond is effectively you have to change your mindset. I personally disagree with this. It's a risky thing to the business. Remember, if you're not Microsoft or Amazon, you don't sell IT. You sell shoes, you sell bread, whatever your company is. And then you go and you put yourself in a paradigm shift, risking your business, risking a lot of money. For what? This is a problem. So when I'm learning from the previous experiences we had, and I almost made the same statement with microservices when they came and with APIs when they came, we should go evolutionary, not paradigm shift. Why do you need to invest a lot in AI? Go incremental. Business goals, what do you need to achieve with these things? And then you implement for this. Going mad, buying thousands of licenses of whatever, Copilot, and going with agentic and having a partnership, it's quite heavy on the company. This is quite important. This is actually, it's an interesting thing. We talk about the agents as having a role. In my mind, they should have a need. They should fulfill a need from a role. So you might replace 3 people with 1 person. That is their role. The idea that actually the agent can somehow independently be so smart and sufficiently, and it's going to work fantastically for the next 10 years, it boggles my mind. It's a bit naive. We have very good technology in terms of takeoff and landing for the airplanes, but we still have 2 pilots and first engineers. So there is a little bit of, wisdom that needs to be applied here. We're excited, we're overhyped, but is it really? And this takes me to the next point. This definitely is going to be cooked, this assumption that treat agents like humans. They are not humans. And the mistake of a human, there is what we call cognitive intelligence. That these machines, they're codes. If the case is not there, you're cooked. And we have a lot of stories. What I work, I can tell you a lot of stories about the excitement of AIs. So you can see from the left side, we have the paradigm shift mentality that you've been hearing probably for most of the last few days, and on the right-hand side is a more grounded approach to these things, okay? The agents are the center of the universe. No, they're not. And particularly with the next one here, the orchestration. For some reason, in the last 6 months, we talk about orchestrations through agents and agents only. A year ago was not the case, or 8 months ago. If you have a very good orchestration, stable orchestration using your APIs, why would you need to change it? For what? So if you have a problem with existing solutions, or you have a new features, then sure, you can take the pros and cons, etc. But just to go mad about changing. And I'm not seeing a lot of orchestrations going both ways, APIs versus agents, microservices, and whatnot. Windows XP is still being used in points of sales today. So the idea that actually you're going to have everything agent and forget about everything else is not going to happen. History tells us that, okay? So I'm going to go through this slide very quickly. So what I'm trying to tell you today is why we need to be grounded in our thinking and how you can use domain-driven design to help to address this evolution within a good, cost-effective way. At the end of the day, money matters. So I'm not going to go through this one here. If you go back to my presentation in London API Days, you will find it there. And if you want, I can give it to you. But these are the patterns that I've been using, been implementing to make sure that actually we make the most of what we have and then the most of what AI world give us, being LLMs, Gen AI, and particularly the agentic. So what is on the top is basically non-negotiable. In the middle is you have to tell me why I shouldn't do it, and decision making. And on the bottom is the technological baseline. You can see API-led architecture, you can see AI-led architecture, and whatnot. All right, very quickly, domain-driven design, if you don't know what it is. It makes sense. Effectively, I use these two pictures often to explain it. So if you want to do some changes in the kitchen, okay, you can't ask people not to go to the dining room or ask the kids not to go to their room. There should be some fair level of independence between these two or these multiple domains. And so they share the platform, right? They share the water pipes and whatnot. But if you want to repaint the dining room, you cannot say nobody goes into the garage. Doesn't make sense. Same thing with the enterprises. So I take the example of banking, for example. Personal banking versus business banking. If you develop things in the personal banking, they shouldn't worry about what's going on in the business banking. Or if in insurance, I worked for the financial service the last 6 years. You have the policy and the claim, two different domains. The team that is working on claims, they cannot say we cannot develop this until we check with the policy people. And then to illustrate that to you effectively, and I'm going to take the next example, this one here. The word customer or the object customer means different things to different domains. And your AI agent in that domain, and this I'm using the first time AI and domain, will not care about the other domains and will not be impacted by the other domain. So for example, in the claim domain, the AI would be able to do, claim checks, history checks, make a decision if I should pay this claim or I should push it to the human to decide. That has nothing to do with the AI agent deciding if we should, renew a policy or not. These are different domains that operate very nicely separately. The key thing in domain-driven design is there is a layer of up and front, it's called the gatekeeping, and that's the API that allows you to do that. So this is a very standard approach. It works in large organizations with a complex processor. If it's a small organization, you cannot really do it. So as I said, the domain layer is the gatekeeping. It's their lightweight APIs that allow the entrance, control the entrance if you want to the domain. It protects it. The AI inside it can do whatever it wants. It will not hurt the other domains, and it will not be hurt by the other domains. 92 APIs in production last 5 years. How many regression testing I did? Once. That's how efficient it is. The nightmare, as soon as you start with regression testing, it gets chaotic. And I predict that the regression testing will be one of the Achilles heels of AI agents. You build them, they are working. The moment you try to enhance them to make them better, you'll be struggling, to do that, and then you have to redesign from scratch and whatnot. You treat them like black boxes. So within those 3 layers, the internal layers can be multiple layers. It's a standard approach. Each domain will work separately, okay? And that's very, very important thing. So they treat each other as if they are from, if it's my wife, I'm going to answer this. No, it's not. So I'm going very, very, very quickly about the DDD and then what it brings to your, what I call the layered agentic service mesh. So it's a combination of APIs and agents that work together within different domains. Okay, so the claims domain or say the personal banking domain, they operate there happily. The one thing you see in this picture that you wouldn't have seen in other presentation is the arrow between the APIs and agents is double-sided. Again, for some reason, we decided to put the APIs at the ACL layer, just above a data store. You know, I disagree with that. You have a very good set of APIs that is operational. You can't just ditch it for the sake of having agents. So you need to choose the business purpose for these agents. And then within the domain, you can have multiple layers, you know. And we're going to look at the example here very quickly. So in terms of an AI, agentic AI calling API, we use the MCP. I think everybody knows that. So I'm going to go very quickly. That's an example on the right hand, you know, just a couple of calls to get exchange rates. That's easy. Now, API is calling agentic AI. This is something that will have to exist if we are to leverage the AI capabilities. And it's possible. So I have an API, an orchestration API that is working fine, stable. I don't need to change it anymore. But I need to get something from a, from a decision from an agent AI. I should be able to call that. And for some reason, we're skipping these things. So these are things we are implementing as I speak to you. So it's not a theoretical purpose. But the key thing here is your domains basically isolate different parts of your IT landscape, and they can perform more efficiently. The agent inside that domain is what we call an expert agent, feature-rich. You don't have multiple agents. Cost is a problem. We're going to come to that very briefly. So things like you have microservices in place, okay? The granularity of a microservice makes it quite difficult because that means the agent will make a lot of calls to those microservices. So there is a bit risk of failure and delays and whatnot. Straight up, the API is a lot faster than agents. We know that. So that's another performance issue. Do you really, for real time or near real time, do you really have to have a lot of agents that actually will delay the response, and then you can get into timeouts and whatnot? For event-driven architecture, you have Event Hub. The replays, you have the logs and you can replay them. They become difficult to address if the agent is making those decisions. So these are real problems that actually you have that armada in your production, and you need to deal with them. So I'm trying just to say that we shouldn't calm down a little bit and then become more efficient in terms of business goals. That's the key thing. Everything else is technical. You need to have a good data. You have to have the central database, blah, blah, blah. Key thing is you have to know exactly the use cases that you need them for instead of throwing the pasta on the wall. So does this mean you need to rewrite the APIs? No. Your APIs need to be enhanced just to basically make a call to an agent whenever is needed. And I think you would agree with me, at the moment the standards are not really clear in terms of how you can call or you get called by agent. And I believe in 1 year time, we'll be talking about totally different standards as this thing evolves quite fast. 70-30 rule, so we know that. But here's the thing. If you go to OpenAI and you ask them about hints, they tell you you have to dumb down to be able to use AI, literally. Don't tell it what you don't want, because it will think that's what you want, and so on. So there are some serious issues here. That's why I said the human element cannot be ignored. I went very fast because I'm hoping to get some questions, but the thing that you can pick up from my presentation is there's a lot of hype going on there, and there are 2 reasons for it, and I know from the insider. One is because IT is hype. We always look for the next buzzword. That's what we are. If there is no buzzword, we feel let down. The other thing is IT companies, large IT companies, they need you to travel through different buzzwords of how they make money. And coming from the business side, we have a lot more grounded approach to this. We look at the AI agents, they're very useful. We look at the, Gen AI, we are using them, but within a business context, leveraging what we have already created. Thank you, that's it. Any question, comment?
Question? Anyone?
Nobody goes out until I get a question.
People are sleeping.
After lunch.
I had a question, I just forgot about it. So I will ask a broader one. What was one of the main, let's say, kind of discovery on using AI with API, with domain-driven, that you were not expecting?
I'll tell you a story. And because within the domain, we went for the feature-rich agents, and then they are quite good in these things because they help us. But I'll tell you a story. Specs can be developed through, Copilot or whatever, and so the developers get their job cut in half, and then some of them got basically made redundant. And it went great until we started trying to enhance those, RAMLs and those contracts and whatnot. And AI doesn't remember these things in detail, and the developer didn't do these things, so they had to go through these contracts and trying to guess. And that's when the hallucination and the errors increased. And then they ended up hiring people back. IBM, if you look at the article, they got rid of 800 people because they used AI, but then hired more than 800 people to manage AI. So there is one of the false arguments is you're not saving on headcounts. You're going to learn it the easy way, or you're going to get it the hard way. We learn it the hard way.
Okay, makes sense. Cool. Someone, one question, last question of this floor for this year, to be honest. Next one. Oh, yeah. It's coming.
So my question is, I see your example about IBM Copilot, but in France, we don't develop it as much at the moment. I see that many companies use LLM project instead of training their data science, their model themselves. And is this really hard to scale for productivity, for efficiency, for personality, the existing AI? So there is a big need, but the supplies is still stuck in some points. So what is your advice for that?
Run.
Yeah.
Skill set is scarce. There aren't enough people with the skill set to develop these things. So it's really a problem. So the 800 people that talked about IBM, they retrained most of the 800 people they're trying to get rid of. It is a problem. People are competing for resources. And it's the irony, the old mindset. But I posit to you that actually, if you have the clear business goals, you have to be clear. This is what we want. Then you can quantify the need. But if you go, private LLM, like within your own Azure or AWS or Google, whatever, you get those licenses and then you pay a lot of money and then you look around and you don't have the resources and you don't know what you want to do. You have the medication, but you don't have the disease for it. But if you go the other way around, okay, where are the pain points where we think the AI can help? And it's a business thing, okay? It's a business thing. The idea that I'm going to get rid of you to put an agent instead is like failing long and large, okay? That's where I'm coming from, because we have things backwards. If you know your goal, then you can retrain people. If they don't want, then obviously you're in disagreement. But most of the time, people will pick up, these habits from that perspective. So the idea is go define your business goals as step one. Then you will have to look at your current state. It has to be clear view, and then you have to have good data, and that technical, yada, yada. But it's business goals that will determine your success, particularly with agentic AI, but also with the LLMs. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one other thing. I mean, I'm putting this together in a book, hopefully in 3-4 months' time. You go to my YouTube videos on API Days last year and this year, and you will find a very good sequence in terms of how the DDD helps you cut these costs. It's effective, it works, and we are living proof of it.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Last talk of the day, last talk of the year.
Is it?
Yeah,
What do
I
I
think
win?
from this on this room it is. So yeah,
What do I win?
yeah, I guess
I can go home.
you are the last surviving one.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Cheers.
you, everyone.